Have you ever just played a game that you've resonated with and you love it so much and you want to keep playing it, and then it's over and they leave it off like they're going to keep making more of them, and they never do? You ever been left hanging by a video game franchise before?
Probably, I guess, Enslaved Odyssey to the West.
That's one.
They definitely could have made another one of those.
Yeah.
I don't think it got popular enough to merit a sequel, though.
Well, hold on. I got a few. I got a couple over here that I can bring up.
Oh, there's a big one, actually, right there on the left of the shelf. Left of the middle shelf.
Left of the middle shelf?
Yep. Far left. Yep.
Oh, yes. This one. I'll bring it over. And then I'll bring this one over, because it never got touched again. And
then there's also Okami.
Yes.
Clover Studio got disbanded by Capcom.
Yeah.
One of the derpiest moves that Capcom has ever made, in my opinion.
Derp. Oh, yeah. And then this did kind of sort of get a sequel, but not really. So, okay. 3 games. I'll let you have this one because this is the one that you brought up. And then I'll take these 2. So, Nick, you want to talk about yours? Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem.
Silicon Knights doesn't exist anymore, so...
Yes. And the IP does technically belong to Nintendo because it was on the GameCube. So, if we ever do see another Eternal Darkness, it just won't be the same because Silicon Knights doesn't exist anymore. And Nintendo is known for letting some of their better properties just sit and rot.
Ubisoft is still fucking working on Beyond Good and Evil 2. Who knows if that'll ever come out, or if it'll actually be any good when it does, because, Ubisoft has gone downhill a lot.
Quadruple A. This is the first ever truly quadruple A game, they say about Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones is god-awful. Okay. The first one I want to discuss, it's the less of the 2 that I can think of. Twisted Metal Black. Twisted Metal Black is, to me, my favorite Twisted Metal game. It is dark. It is mysterious. It has so many great stories in it. It has amazing vehicular combat. It was basically the Twisted Metal franchise perfected, in my opinion. This is the best Twisted Metal game that I can think of, and I don't think it's even close. They were working on a sequel, but then, all of a sudden, for some reason, PlayStation just decided, nah, we're not going to let you work on that anymore. Canceled. And then I know we got the Twisted Metal game from 2013, or 2012 or 2013, I can't remember what year, but it was unfinished, because we only got the stories of 3 characters, when in truth we got, I forget how many characters in this one. I think it's well over 10 characters, and all of them have their own fleshed out story. And not only that, but there's a reward for playing through all of them and get an unlocking minion, and then playing through minion and deciphering the code with his campaign. Dude, there's so much great with this game. And so far, we haven't received... And I know that they're coming out with another Twisted Metal game, but from what I heard about it, they're going to be making it a live service. So, fuck me. And then, of course, this one, which still to this day What?
This doesn't look so good.
I played it. It still plays good. But anyway, the one that I am still mad about, the last words in this game were "to be continued." Never. PsyOps, the Mindgate Conspiracy. This is hands down one of my favorite, most underrated games ever. Nobody knows about it, dude. Nobody. Oh, well, most people know
of it.
You know of it.
Never played it.
This game had so many amazing things in it. It had so many amazing powers. It had so many really, really cool ideas about like the different way. Like, for instance, there was a character who could lift things that were just gigantic. But your character couldn't because you'd focused your training on other things. Other psiotic abilities. Like pyrokinesis and aura view and stuff like that. You focused it on other things, whereas he mainly focused on telekinesis. And you could play into that in the second one by basically building your soldier from the ground up and choosing which do you want to be more focused on? Do you want to be more focused on telekinesis? Do you want to be focused on mind control? Do you want to be more focused on pyrokinesis? Do you want to be more focused on aura view? I mean, because aura view, there's an interesting way you can use aura view. You could actually use aura view to view weak spots in your enemy, and you can basically shoot them, and it'll be an insta kill. That could be level 2 or 3 of aura view. And if there's enemies that give you trouble, like the big brutes, the ones that take forever to kill, it's level 3 aura view. Hey, if I shoot him here, if I get a surprise on him and I shoot him right here in the back of his head, after seeing it with aura view, it'll insta kill him. There's so many ways you can implement different things in, and we never got it.
And then there's Half-Life 2, which episode 2 just poofed.
Yeah, the Half-Life series has been on standby for a long time. I know there's people say, well, Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life Alyx was predominantly a prequel. And, yeah,
And there's everybody, me included, who would still love to have a second Bloodborne game.
Which you heard about FromSoft actually buying the rights from Elden Ring back from Bandai Namco, right? Bandai Namco is in a really bad way, and they had to sell the rights to Elden Ring back to FromSoft. So here's the thing with it. FromSoft, I guarantee you, if the very moment PlayStation makes Bloodborne multi-platform by putting it on Steam, I guarantee you, Miyazaki is just going to be like, hey, I want to make another Bloodborne game. As a matter of fact, we have all these years of pre-work on it.
Well, here's the thing about Miyazaki, actually, that I found out recently, and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense now that I hear that. Miyazaki never actually intended to make sequels for any of the games that are Souls-likes that he's done so far.
Really?
Yeah, because that's why he wasn't on Dark Souls 2.
But then he did Dark Souls 3. They convinced
him to come back for 3, but he's really not... He wanted each of the games that they've made so far with him on it
be standalones?
To be their own standalone experience.
Fair enough.
So that might be why we might not ever get a Bloodborne 2, despite the fact that everybody wants it so much. But probably never get a Sekiro sequel, probably never get an Elden Ring sequel outside of the DLC,
Well, Elden Ring, I can see that, given how massive it is, if they never got a sequel, I wouldn't be surprised. Bloodborne, though, because of how focused it is on, just eldritch horror and stuff like that, I could definitely see it getting a sequel.
For me, it doesn't even have to be Bloodborne 2, necessarily. It can be a completely separate concept and things, but just keep the Victorian horror, coat of paint for, a Souls-like made by FromSoft,
Potentially. And then, of course, there's potential talk of him finally being able to do his dream project, a full video game Souls-like version of Berserk. That's his dream project. He has said that multiple times. He said that if he could get permission to do a Berserk video game, he would do it in a heartbeat. Because he was that much of a fan of Kentaro Miura's work that he was aching to do that for so long. And it's one of his biggest inspirations for the Soulsborne games. Anyway, so we have also this face. Duh.
Yeah, they cut the opening frame on her face on a funny moment there.
Yeah. Outside Extra.
So I used to watch Outside Extra and stuff all the time. So basically, they have a channel, their main channel called Outside Xbox.
Yes.
Outside Extra is them talking about anything that's not Xbox, specifically related.
Yeah.
But I've always had a crush on her. I think she's
really
pretty.
Yeah. Nice. Well, let's check out 7 abandoned exclusives that PlayStation did dirty. Here we go.
For those unfamiliar, an exclusive is a game that can only be played on one gaming platform. And screw you if you bought any of the other ones instead. Sorry about it. It's our opinion that Sony has been knocking it out of the park recently with exclusive games that have turned out to be commercial and critical hits. Think Spider-Man, God of War, Horizon, the fine work of Naughty Dog. I'm on a dinosaur! But Sony has also proved itself happy to bin off perfectly good exclusive franchises, to the despair of millions craving new installments in their favourite series. Here's another opinion we're happy to share. These exclusives were abandoned too soon. So let's dust off some forgotten franchises and examine 7 PlayStation exclusives that Sony ditched too early. It's a good day to be a Knack fan.
Knack isn't on this list.
What?
Yeah. Gravity Rush only got 2 games.
And one was a remaster.
Yeah, the other thing about it is they were both portable games, like, and the console versions weren't really the main versions. They were just ports of the portable versions. But in my opinion, like, definitely underrated. Like, the first one's the only one I've played, but the first one's really fun. Like, very entertaining game.
It's no exaggeration to say that we all hate gravity and cannot wait for the day that we finally kill it and escape from its restraints into the sky. Until that day, our best hope of imagining a world where we're not all pinned humiliatingly to the floor every single second is video games. Video games like Gravity Rush and its sequel, Gravity Rush 2. Released on the PlayStation Vita handheld and PS4 respectively, the Gravity Rush games were remarkable for their physics-bending gameplay, where you could send yourself falling into the sky towards an enemy, then change the direction of gravity in a moment to continue kicking ass. NASA, whatever you're working on at the moment, it's time to delete the Google Doc and get on this instead. Outside of combat, Gravity Rush's clever mechanics made simply traversing its colourful world feel really cool, and it had a charming, good vibes aesthetic to boot. Despite getting great reviews and being the brainchild of Silent Hill creator Keiichiro Toyama, Sony has given up on Gravity Rush following seemingly weak sales of the second game. The studio that made both
because
games
I heard the second game is even better than the first game.
Was dissolved in 2020, but we hold out hope that Sony decides to do something in future with this extremely fun gravity warping franchise. I mean, imagine how good this
in my
kind of thing
opinion,
would look on
Sony,
PS5.
both games, one package, completely remastered, not remade, remastered
PS5.
on PS5.
You would have a massive following.
Advertise it too, like advertise it, put Toriyama's name on it. Like, I think you can get some sales out of that.
I think you could too.
I know I would run out and buy it.
Good enough to make us briefly forget about you-know-what. You see? Still doing it. Grow up!
PaRappa the Rapper.
Never actually played these.
I liked it, alright.
If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. Be sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick.
Nowadays, there aren't many rhythm action games around, at least not outside of minigames in otherwise very different titles.
I don't know. That one that you played, Metal, it's the one where you literally, like...
Hellsinger?
Yeah, Hellsinger, where you shoot...
Yeah, there's Hellsinger, there's Hi-Fi Rush. When they put this video out, maybe not, but when did this video come out?
2 days ago.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why they said that then. Nowadays, rhythm action games are coming back hard.
I wouldn't... I would love if they did a PaRappa the Rapper Part 3.
Not to mention, like, I mean, it's not really a rhythm action game. It's more of a just DDR clone for keyboard, but, like, a lot of people were really hyped on Friday Night Funkin', and they're still working on making the full game of it that got heavily Kickstarter wrecked.
Nice. That's not fair.
That's a bad example.
That is not fair.
Terrible example.
You
of a
don't
good
know.
rhythm game.
Let the music move you. You can do it.
Ah, God, no, not that one. Anything but that one. But rhythm action games used to be more than just a minigame. Released in Japan in 1996 for the PlayStation 1, PaRappa the Rapper was many people's introduction to this incredibly popular genre. Playing as a dog that rapped, players pressed buttons in time to help PaRappa rap about karate, learning to drive, and selling goods at a flea market.
Oh yes, I had a lot of fun. I made a lot of bucks and now I'm on the run.
On the run? What exactly was that frog selling?
That's the thing. That's the joke.
The game became a
Given the
much-loved
accent,
classic.
I would be willing to guess a bit of the ganja.
I would not be surprised. And honestly, as well, I love the fact that they based him around Shaggy. Or Mr. Lova. They called me Mr. Boombastic.
Spawning a spin-off in 1999, a sequel in 2001, and 2 re-releases of the original game on its 10th and 20th anniversaries.
When I say boom, 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 you say bam, bam, bam. No pause in between. Come on, let's jet.
But it's been 2 decades since an original game was added to the series, and in that time, rhythm action games have greatly evolved. Game mats became popular, the Just Dance series had players moving their whole body, and Guitar Hero's controllers changed the landscape forever. So going back to an entire game where you just press a single button at the right time is maybe a hard sell.
I will fall to the floor.
I fall to the floor. I fall to the floor.
Which is why we're
Yeah, I really wish they could go back and do a, because I remember they actually tried to do they did a Kickstarter for a PaRappa the Rapper 3, and it didn't go anywhere.
I think they need to rethink the way they're going to do it if they do it again. Like, they need to look at something like Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
Bring it into that kind of, vibe and paint job and such.
suggesting they bring PaRappa the Rapper to the new home of rhythm action games, VR. As people have moved away from bulky guitars and drum kits, VR has taken over the rhythm action scene. Perhaps because, at least with VR, you only end up with one big plastic peripheral hogging space in your living room. And you can be playing games like Beat Saber, Ragnarok, and Pistol Whip. Instead of merely pressing
pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's
I like
basically
that.
Hellsinger, but in VR.
buttons, perhaps the rhythm actions could be dance moves or the actions being sung about in each of the songs. Kick, punch, it's not all in the mind. Well, maybe the kicking bit is, because PSVR 2 isn't built for that. Not only could the gameplay be updated to be a bit more exciting, but it would be a brilliantly trippy world to step into via VR, with all of the brightly coloured environments and wibbly-wobbly 2D models. With the PSVR 2 not having many exclusives to set it apart from other headsets, adding a hit of nostalgia to its roster might just get more PS5 owners to make the jump.
Jump and pose.
See? The Onion gets it.
Oh. Bloodborne. Just like you were talking about. Those of you wondering why I didn't pull a copy of that out, the copy I have is upstairs. Sorry. We have it near the PlayStation 5 because Nick wanted to play it one day. And
Yeah, I played it this past Halloween a little bit.
Of all of From Software's beloved
Old Hunter
action
just got knocked on
RPGs,
his
Dark
ass.
Souls, Elden Ring, and so on, some people consider Bloodborne to be the best one. But the thing you have to remember about those people is that they're geniuses.
hey, it's his favorite.
Released in 2015 for the PS4, Bloodborne boasts immaculately horrible vibes and gripping, fast-paced combat that have earned it legions of adoring fans and a stonkingly high Metacritic score. A sequel to this beloved, critically lauded game would feel like an absolute slam dunk, and yet publisher Sony has never made any return to Bloodborne's gore-soaked streets whatsoever.
Well, it's because I think, like Nick was talking about earlier, Miyazaki doesn't really like doing sequels, so...
At least at the time of recording. I feel like by adding that, maybe I'm making it more likely they'll do it.
Or less
Even as
likely.
developer From Software's status as one of gaming's best developers continues to grow and grow, and even as
I've been
Bloodborne's
told I'm
eerie
an asshole for
world-building
killing this boss on my first try of fighting this boss.
Really?
Yes. Apparently this boss wrecks a lot of people, and I somehow managed to kill him on my first try.
continues
Apparently
to
that
make new
wasn't
players
supposed to
swoon
happen.
nearly a decade later. Or maybe just faint. I mean, there is a lot of blood. Bloodborne director Hidetaka Miyazaki has suggested before that a Bloodborne sequel isn't his call to make, which suggests that it's probably up to publisher Sony. Yet Sony has seen fit to let this most diamond-bright piece of intellectual property languish, ignoring players' cries for a sequel, or even just a PC port, or even just a PS5 remaster, or even just a version that runs at more than 30 frames per second.
Yeah, a lot of people have just been asking if they would just do a fucking update so it'll run at 60 frames on PS5.
Too much to ask.
They won't even do that.
How about this, Sony? You just hold up a sign that says Bloodborne 2 on it, and I'll
Of
give you
course, here's the thing about these kind of games. It very well could be the case of that's slightly easier said than done. Because there are a lot of creatures in the game that grab you. You lose health while you're grabbed. You know how they do a lot of the calculations for damage on that
Frame
in those
rates.
kind of games? It's locked to the frame rate.
Well,
If it's anything like the Evil Within, like if you play Evil Within on PC and unlock your frame rate, anything that grabs you, you die instantly.
I know that because that happened to me multiple times.
£60. Sadly, the only time in recent memory that Sony has even acknowledged Bloodborne's existence has been to order all the branding scrubbed from fan-made demake Bloodborne cart.
Yeah, that was bullshit.
Yeah.
This guy, like,
It's a real Nintendo style move, in my opinion.
yeah, the Bloodborne demake was tremendous, and Bloodborne cart was really, really good.
Which, if this is the first time you're hearing about that project, I'm sorry to have made you fall in love and then broken your heart in such rapid order. How about this, Sony? You hold up a sign that says we don't actively hate Bloodborne fans, and I'll give you £60.
Sorry, they're shaking their heads.
Oh, okay. Well, here's £60 anyway.
Oh,
Yeah. I only ever played the first one, but I was
For those of you
surprised that
born-
they quit them that quickly after they only did a couple sequels. I figured maybe the sequels weren't as good or something, but I've heard a lot of people say
oh
they're
no,
all
Band
good.
of Thieves, the second one is really, really good. I played it a fair amount.
After 2005 that don't have parents forcing their old games on you, Sly Cooper is a quick-witted video game raccoon who likes to steal things. With a host of animal friends who help him on his heists, Sly Cooper was a family-friendly stealth series with a unique and fun art style. And its success is probably one reason why every game has a forced stealth section now. But after 3 games, developers Sucker Punch Productions moved on to a new project in order to retain relevance. Talking to Game Informer in 2010, co-founder and development director Chris Zimmerman said, "The games people buy now are different than they were 10 years ago. You have to adapt to that." Indeed, it seems that Sly Cooper was the victim of the late 2010s gaming trend of moving away from cartoon mascots and making everything more mature, i.e. gritty and brown. So Sucker Punch moved on to the Infamous series, which, to be fair, was one of the more fun, gritty and desaturated series of that era. After that series, they made the brilliant samurai stealth game Ghost of
of the best
Tsushima,
games I've
even
ever
sneaking
played.
a few little references to Sly in there
Sly Tanuki.
too. But, hear us out, we think Sly ought to make a return. Why? I'll tell you for why.
The furry community, because they just won't shut the fuck up about Sly fucking Cooper.
See, I was just thinking, like, yeah, that style of game back then was a certain style that's not really done as much anymore nowadays. But there is room to update it and modernize it and make it good still.
Well, okay, you want to talk about one that suffered from that cartoonish vibe of the late 2010s that they say contributed to the downfall of the game itself, but yet the game itself was so brilliant that eventually it received enough love to where it got its own sequel? Psychonauts. Not only did Psychonauts get a sequel, the sequel, according to a lot of people out there, is just as good as the first one.
And there's another series that I think is close enough to Sly that is still going in the modern day, and the most recent one is one of the best ones they've ever done. That's Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah?
I think Ratchet and Clank is proof that if they do the right things to Sly Cooper, they can bring it back too.
Yes.
'Cause Rift Apart is such a fun, amazing game.
And then, of course, I know there's going to be like, well, what about Jack and Daxter? Tell that to
There's
Naughty
that
Dog.
too, really, man.
Tell that to Naughty
Jack
Dog.
and Daxter could come back too if they do the right things.
Naughty Dog won't do it because Neil Druckmann's just like, I'm trying to change the world through my art and make people feel something. It's like, Neil, the only thing I feel is a sudden
I feel
urge.
like punching you in the face. Neil.
Yeah, the only thing I feel is a sudden urge to just be like, mute. Thank you. Thank you, Neil.
Firstly, the renewed popularity of Ratchet & Clank, whose first game debuted the same year as Sly Cooper's. Their most recent platforming action-adventure, Rift Apart, was released in 2021 to huge critical acclaim and commercial success.
What did I
so
just
don't
say?
try and tell me cutesy animal games don't fly anymore. Secondly, stealth games still prove to be popular. Merely consider Arkane's Dishonored series and IO Interactive's Hitman. But apparently,
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
I haven't played the new Hitman yet. Like, it's in my backlog.
Yeah, the new Hitman games, like Hitman 1, 2, and 3.
I tried the very first mission of, like, the first one, and, like, I can tell it's going to be a blast when I finally get around to getting to them, but, like, I haven't actually got into them still.
The one that got me was, I think, the demo mission that they did for the first Hitman game, where you lure this guy who's like he's like an engineer who's engineering this new plane, this new type of plane that is going to be very stealthy and everything. And you dress up as one of his testing dudes. You steal like their outfit and you get a hat on, and you basically lure him. Be like, sir, we've had issues out of the panel inside. Could you check on that for us and make sure that we did things right? And he's like, all right, very well. And then he gets inside, and when he gets inside, you can trigger the eject function and disable the parachute. I did that. He launches out, and all of a sudden, everyone gathers around and is just like looking at. Dude takes off like a firework, and then in the distance you just hear. It's like, and all of a sudden you just hear, your target has been eliminated. Like, and now I'm leaving. Yeah, it's
apparently it isn't
genius.
kid-friendly
Yeah,
to
there's
see someone
apparently
get
just-
squished to
Oh,
death by a wine press. So there is
There's a crap ton of ways that you can do those missions, too, that make it just super replayable.
yeah, dude. The briefcase. The fact that IOI has basically just made the briefcase thing, because the briefcase was a meme. Because
homing briefcase.
yes, you could throw the briefcase and it would follow until it eventually killed the target, and they made it a meme in the next one. I was like, yes, these guys get it.
a gap in the market for a stealth game that can be enjoyed by kids and adults alike. We would love to see a new stealthy heist adventure with updated controls, some nice textures for Sly's bushy tail, and a whole bunch of jokes that will be just for the parents in the room. Good clean fun, and not a wine press in sight.
The stage is set.
Oh, yes.
Never played
Storm
this.
is coming.
I've heard really, really good things.
The land braces itself. Welcome to Motor Storm.
If there's one thing that gives Sony pleasure, it's clinging to the movie rights to Spider-Man. But if there's another
Yes.
thing, it's a technical showcase. For a corporation that straddles not just games consoles, but TVs, audio, cameras, and robot dogs, the ability to demonstrate performance that outstrips the competition has always been front of mind for Sony, which makes it so weird that it binned off MotorStorm. This muddy, chaotic racing game involved different types of vehicles, from ATVs to motocross bikes, sliding dangerously around mountainous tracks. It was a good game, but it also had bouncy suspension physics, huge wide-open courses, and graphically intensive dust and mud splattering everywhere. And for
Yeah.
this reason was a great showcase of what the brand new PlayStation 3, released just a month prior in November 2006, was capable of. I've seen a lot of video game mud in my time, and that was... well, that was some of it. You'd think that Sony would love a pet franchise that it could wheel out, no pun intended, to demonstrate the graphical might of its consoles.
Basically, this could be an answer to Forza Motorsport, whereas Forza Motorsport is all about sleek, like professional, this and that. Whereas this can be rough and tumble, fuck 'em up.
And yet, the throttle-stomping arcade stylings of MotorStorm never made it to the PS4 even. After a number of well-reviewed sequels, Sony seems to have gone off MotorStorm, which is a shame because the series was just getting weird, with an RC racer game for the Vita handheld and MotorStorm Apocalypse in 2011, where you raced through cities as they were collapsing around you.
Yeah.
MotorStorm seems unlikely to return, not least because Sony has Gran Turismo to showcase the PlayStation's graphical prowess. But it's a shame there isn't a PlayStation-exclusive racing series that caters to those who like their driving a little more aggressive and a little less carefully driving an old Porsche to a classical music medley. Mustn't bump into anything. I've never made it as far as Bizet's Carmen suite.
By this communion, you are bound to our sacred order.
I know
There's
why.
a reason this didn't get a sequel.
Yeah, I know why.
Yeah, it's because it wasn't very good.
Yeah, not to say that it didn't have potential. It most certainly had potential. I mean, the story, the world, there's just so much in it that's good, but the gameplay execution was just so bad.
It was short, and even though it was short, they apparently repeated the same boss like 3 times.
Yes.
It's like, it just needed a lot more than what was put into it.
Servant of our great king and knight of the Round Table.
Back in 2015, the Order 1886 was released on PlayStation 4, and it was... This much-awaited game looked absolutely stunning, but failed to live up to the hype surrounding it. Players said the game was too short, the gameplay was shallow, and it was full of QTEs, which were more out of vogue in 2015 than Ugg boots. But even as we say all that, we think Sony should give it another chance. The game had heaps of potential. First off is the setting. Victorian steampunk London where you're Knights of the Round Table and you're fighting werewolves? Yes please. Beef up the story, rip out the QTEs and make the gunfights feel as good as they looked, and you've got an excellent game just waiting to be sold for $70 a pop. There were credible rumours in early 2020 reported by Games Radar implying that a sequel was in the works and not just for PlayStation. However, nothing seemed to come of those rumours, and just a few months later the Order 1886 developer Ready at Dawn was acquired by Oculus,
And there you go.
after making the critically acclaimed VR title Lone Echo.
Anomaly detected.
What the
I
hell?
heard about that, but that looks cool.
Oh yeah, that. In terms of meta, or Facebook, that is one of their premier VR titles.
You see?
Sony still owns the rights to the Order 1886 though, so we reckon it's time to pick up the phone. Maybe to call Sony Santa Monica, who collaborated with Ready at Dawn on the original game and has had proven successes with single-player action adventures set in mythical worlds as shown by their most recent God of War titles.
Yes.
Maybe instead of the Leviathan axe, you have the Arthurian swords and oh my god, Sony, write this down now.
Like I was saying, where the hell is...
There is one other thing I would like to see come back, but that's one of the few things that if it comes back, I want it to be fully remade. And there's a particular dev team that I don't know if they would be down to do it, but I would love to see them do it. And that would be Resistance.
Ooh.
Fall of Man.
Who's the dev team?
The guys who made Metro Last Light and Metro Exodus.
That could work.
I think if they made it and put their own spin on it, it could be fucking baller. Like, just put some more gritty realism into Resistance.
Yeah.
But keep, like, the same basic concept and story that they started with, but just start over.
Mm-hmm.
That could be something that I would be, like, all about. But
I get that.
it'll never happen. It's like a fantasy scenario, you know? But it'd be cool if it did.
All of a sudden, we turn on the PlayStation, like, PlayStation Now thing, and it's just like... It's like...
From the creators of the Metro series.
Exclusive title. Exclusive to PlayStation 5. It's like from the creators of Metro Exodus and Metro Last Light. Resistance. I don't know, you just where they already did 3 Resistance games, you probably just get away with saying
I would
Resistance
say
again.
just either leave the subtitle off, or they need to come up with something really nice sounding to go with it.
Resistance.
It also implies, like, you know, a fresh start in some way.
Resistance, Mankind's, I don't know. They could do something. They could workshop it.
Racing is one of the best things you can do with cars in video games, second only, of course, to crashing. Way back in 1995, Sony understood this, and a delightful mix of cars and combat arrived on the PS1 in the form of Twisted Metal. Following a Destruction Derby tournament of the same name, the aim of the game was to smash up the competition in 6 different areas around Los Angeles. Players could control one of 12 vehicles, one of which was an ice cream truck being driven by a terrifying murder clown.
By the name of Sweet Tooth.
And it all happens on Christmas Eve 2005. How festive. There were a healthy number of Twisted Metal sequels and spin-offs that followed, but the last main entry was the Twisted Metal released in 2012. And it was more limited than previous games, just focusing on 3 characters.
Exactly.
The aforementioned murder clown, whose name is Sweet Tooth, Mr. Grimm with his Grim Reaper vibes, and Dollface, a model who murdered all of her competition. Sony clearly remembers Twisted Metal exists. As recently as 2023, it was turned into a TV show starring Stephanie Beatriz and Anthony Mackie.
Oh, man.
Leaving Twisted Metal in the bizarre situation of being a TV video game adaptation with no actual video game. This is a shame, because there's way more that a Twisted Metal game could do these days, such as a pure demolition mode where you just go in and blow up destructive scenery with your vehicle. And hey, perhaps bring back a multiplayer mode that could put GTA Online's car explosions to shame. Just imagine Rocket League, but instead of scoring goals, you're just blowing other cars up. They could go back to a full roster of characters in the vein of
to
hero
assume
shooters
that I
like
don't play Rocket League 90% that way when I do play it.
Overwatch. We'll even consider it being live service. That's how bad we want more Twisted Metal.
Keep the live service stuff out of it, man. Develop a good solo single-player thing, then do the live service stuff. Please.
Also, please put the second series of the TV show on anything other than Paramount+. Nobody has Paramount+. Not even Paramount has Paramount+.
Yeah.
Right, just gotta let the other knack fan know. Oh, no, they're taking it real bad. I'm sorry. Are there any other Sony exclusives that you desperately want Sony to bring back? There's loads out there. Come on, Sony, use your intellect and your property and make some good games, please. Trust your studios, they're doing good work. But yeah, let us know in the comments. Maybe you've got an idea for a sequel, such as I do for Knack 3, God of War Ragnarok, which is a crossover when...
Ooh. Your joke is bad and you should feel bad.
Knack and Atreus go on a wonderful adventure in the world of Knack. And it's great.
So it's not got Kratos in it?
He's,
Wouldn't tolerate a game with Knack.
No, I don't think he wouldn't do it. Atreus, we can maybe...
Yeah, Atreus would probably tolerate it.
Oh, people would love that. People love it. Famously, Sony fans love when their favourite characters get killed off at the beginning of the game. Anyway.
Yeah, we loved it, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Sure as hell loved it.
Videos here. If you want to support this video, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. If you want to go even further, we have a Patreon where you can join our Discord and maybe we can come up with some more Knack games there. Yeah? No? Just me? Okay. Bye. See you next time.
Yeah, unfortunately, just you.
See you next.
I never played.
I was gonna say, all this talk of Knack is leaving me knackered. Stop it, please.
I never had a knack for Knack.
Yeah.
I heard it wasn't that good, so I never tried it.
It has some things in it that are really good, but overall it is just something that didn't really pique my interest either. But anyway, yeah, so that was Outside Extra with 7 abandoned exclusives that PlayStation did dirty. We talked about the ones that we liked, and we talked about the ones that, you know, we have over here on our wall. What are some that you really wish that...
Also, whatever happened to Heavenly Sword?
Yeah, that's another one. Where's Heavenly
The
Sword
first one
at?
wasn't that good, but it was perfectly serviceable. And imagine giving a sequel of it to Sony Santa Monica after
Oh,
what they did with
God.
Because, I mean, Heavenly Sword was kind of compared to God of War to an extent.
Yeah. Man, I don't know.
I also still want to see Folklore come back as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
Folklore was a very cool PS3 exclusive that I think was an underrated gem.
All right. Well, anyway, everybody, thank you all very much for tuning in. And until next time, I'm Nate.
I'm Nick.
Y'all be good people. Take care. Peace.